All right, so what do I have to do to get you to not snap at me? Let's talk compromise real quick.
Slap me when I do it.
Deal.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the Afterthoughts portion of my Jack and Jill social experiment philosophy conversation video. Isn't this shirt fucking hot? I think so too. Anyway, you have to watch the previous video that I posted today to even have any understanding of what's going on in this video here. In the previous video, I described a scenario to 8 people, including myself. Then I asked a series of 10 questions to try to understand how they perceived the scenario, to better understand myself, psychology, and to maybe make more informed opinions on compromising in relationships. This video, however, are all of the afterthoughts, non-scripted, just open and honest extra conversations with each person that I talked to in the previous video, where I tell them why this scenario piqued my interest and we have a more open, candid discussion about the details. So if you liked the last video and you want to hear me just talking and shooting the shit with some of my friends about this, keep watching. This is a very long video, I understand. I did not cut anything up to take anyone out of context. This is just the rest of our conversations. Please do tell me in the comments who you identify with most, Jack or Jill, just like you did in the last video, and also which person I talked to do you agree with most. Enjoy, guys. I guess I'll talk to you about it now. I'm trying to figure out, alright, because this scenario was presented in a psychological video that I watched, a psychology video that I watched, and it was an example of a good compromise. But in my opinion, if these people are just not compatible at all. There's no indication that it's only for a short period of time and Jack is also dying without the attention of her. It sounds like she's needy, he is distant, and that's just not compatible. And I think those kinds of compromises in relationships are not something that I would be willing to do or feel good about, because it's like every time they go on the date night, he's just worried about work, and that's where he would rather be. It's not like they're setting it as a more structured time so that they get that time in because they both want it. It seems like from the information that he is stressed anytime she takes away time from work.
No, I feel like you're either making assumptions or you're making Jack out to be only the kind of guy you would date. But the kind of guy you would date would not move as far in a career as the kind of guy that you apparently wouldn't date. Because I think that in order to, I think to Jack, it's really important to be like a really good breadwinner and provider, and maybe they want to have kids eventually, and he wants to be in an extremely good position down the line in a few years. And the only way to do that is by working a lot right now, and he keeps seeing Jill as like interfering with that when all he wants to do is do what's good for them together. I mean, I still think it's a fair compromise if he can pull that off. And if he can't, then yeah, maybe they should break up and he should do that while he's single for the next girl or something. But I feel like you're applying assumptions onto the guy, and probably because you would not date the kind of guy that would be fair in this situation.
I think that if you have needs that require a lot of attention or require a lot of connection, then you are just incompatible with someone who will never meet your needs for years, possibly.
So Jill could be like you, and then she'd be incompatible with him. But she's not like you, it sounds like, because she has a compromise that she seems to think she'd be happy with, that you would not be happy with.
Okay, even if she or I were happy with that compromise, the whole time that he is compromising, he's disliking it.
Well, sure, and she's disliking it too. That's the point of a compromise. But I think the only way...
No, she's taking what she can get and enjoying every second of that tiny amount. And he's disliking a fundamental part of it, which is spending time with his wife. That's the only reason they're together.
If he's actually disliking spending time with him, sure, but I don't see it that way.
Her, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. If he's disliking spending time with her, then that's a problem, obviously. But you're again applying some assumption. No one thinks...
Why would he not disenjoy it if it's not happening unless she forces it?
Like I said, because all he cares to do right now is be in a position where he can actually spend more time. He's focusing on something that in the long run will make it so that he can spend all his time with her.
You think the average guy who works too hard only works that hard in a specific point in their lives?
Yes. I think most people who work hard are trying to work hard so they don't have to work hard later. And so they can provide for their wife and kids down the line. That's typically, that's the average reason. I think you are creating like these niche reasons that don't happen on
I
the
think
average.
most people who work too much and who are in turn successful because of it are workaholics.
Okay, but
and it becomes an addiction, not like.
But even if that's true,
becomes their lives.
He eventually gets in a position where he'd have to literally pretend he's working if he
And at that time, and by that time, the connection's already lost. She's cheating on him or something, and
if she's you.
he's alone.
But it sounds like part of this compromise that she presented, in my opinion, should be that there's also like a time limit to that, and if he doesn't somehow make his job less time consuming, that they should then start compromising either further, and stop putting the job as a priority, or break up. Like, I think that this compromise is fair as long as there's like a time limit set on it, and that Jill does deserve more after like a certain time period, like a year or 2 years or something. Whatever Jack thinks it will take for him to get into a better position at his job.
So you think this is just a case of people loving each other differently, but maybe loving each other the same amount?
Yeah.
And you think that Jill should take this leap of faith that she's not going to waste her younger years?
Well, it depends on what matters to Jill. If Jill is like, oh, all I care is to be happy right now in my younger years, and I don't really care later to have a really good breadwinner.
Even if she has a really good breadwinner later on, she's taking that leap of faith that he won't just be a workaholic until they die.
What's the... Okay, so worst case scenario is...
She ends up leaving him
that
10 years later because he lied
not
about...
10 years. That's what I'm saying. To put a time limit. Like, is she willing to give him a chance? Like, she'd obviously ask him, are you sure you're not a workaholic? Do you think that this will stop eventually? Like, obviously, everything I'm saying relies on Jack not making this a forever thing. And Jack would have to, like, assure her of that. And then she would have to choose if she trusts him. And then, obviously, he could be lying or wrong. Maybe he doesn't know he's a workaholic. And then, yeah, she'd be sacrificing a year or two of her life.
Yeah, but, like, let's say they put a 2-year cap on it and he isn't where he wants to be, or he could be higher if he just took more time. Then she's compromising again for another amount of time. Or she has to be like, no on your dream, and then he can't follow his dream. Like, it sucks.
Well, yeah, like I said, like, he'd have to be okay with giving this dream thing or whatever a time limit, and then starting to prioritize her even if he doesn't reach his goals at his job.
Well, I would guess
that... And if he doesn't, then they break up. So she'd have to be willing to sacrifice a year or two of her life on this relationship.
And I would guess statistically that this always ends up the exact same, where he's asking for more time, or he's unhappy in his entire life, or she ends up cheating because it's so long and she just keeps compromising. Like, what I don't understand. I don't really think it's rational to be like, this person's extremely driven, extremely workaholic, but only for 1 or 2 years, so then he can settle down for the rest of the time and actually give her the attention she deserves.
I guess I feel like this thing you're saying is happening is something I'm giving the people the benefit of the doubt that they'd be able to tell. Like, I think there's tells that what you're saying is happening. And I think that if Jill noticed what you're saying is happening with Jack, that he's a workaholic and all this shit, that then she should just break up and not even try this compromise. Like, what you're saying is happening, I think, is very easy to detect. Like, most of the time, obviously you could still be wrong. And so since she's asking for this compromise, I'm assuming that that's not the case. I'm assuming that Jack is not a workaholic, because otherwise Jill would probably be able to tell that. She would suspect that a lot more than to try to, do a compromise.
I think anyone who's like, yeah, just give me some time and I'll be like the best doctor in the world or whatever, will appear as a workaholic and has those traits because they're so driven.
Especially if they do how you just said it. Like, just give me a few years. I'll be like, you're just like describing like a fuckboy. Like, you're literally describing the person that you've painted this guy with a broad brush to be. And I'm saying that Jill, unless we're talking about a moron, I think she should be able to detect that he's a fuckboy or a liar or whatever, and that she already did that before asking for this compromise.
I'm not seeing him as malicious. I'm just seeing him as a guy who clearly needs a wife who is very distant from him, and the other bitch needs someone who's clingier.
Okay, and I'm calling that kind of like a fuckboy, right? Like,
it's not a fuckboy. No, he's extremely driven. He wants what's best for his children in the future. He's like a sweet guy, like all this shit,
okay,
but he's just not hands-on.
But you're describing a guy who wants the best for his children and future wife, and he's not envisioning that wife to be Jill, apparently. Like, necessarily. He just cares.
Well, he is. He's not seeing, because he doesn't care about, like, touch, closeness, intimacy, and all that stuff. So he's seeing it as, like, this is perfect. This bitch is quiet at home. This is what I want, you know? Not rudely, just, like, that's what he wants.
Well, but she's not like that. She's doing that only during the compromise that there's a time limit on, in my opinion, needs to be.
Okay.
Like, yeah, if her compromise is for the rest of my life, I will be quiet except for 1 day a week, I don't think that's a fair compromise. I think Jill is sacrificing too much.
Okay. So it's just we need more information or something, but you think it is possible for people that different, fundamentally different, in what they want in a relationship?
I don't think they're fundamentally different necessarily. I think that if they were, they would be able to tell. Like, the thing you're describing is so fundamentally different, they should be able to tell that. Like, that. And maybe I'm giving them too much, like, whatever.
Credit?
Yeah. I couldn't think of it. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit and thinking that they should, like, I guess you're probably right that this kind of shit happens all the time. I guess that people just like don't realize because they're like stupid. I just feel like if Jack and Jill are intelligent people, it would be a different scenario. I could make a lot of assumptions, like Jill can tell he's not a fuckboy, like all this stuff. But if they're like a low IQ couple, then yeah, they could just be like living in the moment, like we're doing with this Corona shit, and just like wearing a mask every day and just like dealing with it, like maybe that's how they are. Yeah, Jill's like, oh, maybe it'll be better tomorrow. I'll just deal with it today, and I'll have a cheat meal with him on Sunday. And then she's not really thinking anything through. That's possible because that seems to be what you're assuming is happening. I guess I'm assuming they're more intelligent people than that.
I mean, I think Jill's happy with the compromise because she suggested it, and she wouldn't suggest it and then stay. She would suggest more or something. My point of contention is that if Jack isn't willing to also present that compromise and he's been happy with what's going on, there's no possible way he loves her as much as he needs to.
Okay, if Jack is like clearly happy with his life right now, then Jill should just leave. But no one said that Jack's happy.
Well, why doesn't he understand when she's calling him and when
Because
she's
she's
bitching
calling
about
him
work?
literally during meetings and shit. It sounds like some sort of annoying ass fucking shit.
Well,
If
she
she's
complains that he works too much too. Like,
yeah, and I'm assuming Jack doesn't like that he works too much, but he's like, dear, I have to, or whatever.
dear.
Like,
Now they're 40.
and then she's fucking calling him when he's trying to like set up meetings and do whatever, like important shit, instead of just calling him, in the evening. That's how it sounds to me, like calling too much, not just once every evening when he's free. Like, I can't imagine that he, like, yeah, if he minds normal things, then he's just like an asshole. But it sounds like she's being too annoying while he's working, and he feels like he needs to work. If he's happy with working this much, then yeah, she should leave him.
All right. I think we hashed it out. I'm not going to do this much talking with everyone because I'm going to be filming
you're
this
doing
with
this with a lot of-
multiple people, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like the reason I'm doing this is because I think you know how I do the whole like we need to never compromise about anything and just allow each other to be whatever, and if we become completely incompatible, then that's how it is, and like that's part of my libertarian principles for everyone else as well outside of a relationship.
That's why you die alone, man.
Well, I'm like really averse to these kinds of, when I hear people are compromising like a ridiculous amount to the point where they're like, yeah, it's a good compromise. Like, it makes me so sad. Like, when I first heard that in the video, this scenario, I was like, poor Jill. Like,
Okay, but like,
this is horrible.
You're ignoring the fact that these two could be extremely compatible once he works less. They maybe get along extremely well and they're fucking soulmates.
It's just wild to wait for a promise.
Sure, and
almost
I mean,
open-endedly.
It is like it's like that song where it's like wait another day, wait another week, wait another year, whatever. Like,
Yeah, it's the
like,
same type
yeah,
of
that
shit.
is like a cliche, and
It gives you a feeling,
I
like a bad
think I
feeling.
am
don't know.
like attributing some extra IQ on them to like I'm pretending that they would put a, because it doesn't sound like she set any kind of time limit on this.
I don't think
and
it has
she
to be
should.
IQ. I think they can be in love because during the honeymoon phase they got along really well. But
Well,
now
no.
that shit's more normalized, it's like it's slowly starting to show that the needs are not met of both parties.
It just is. The reason I'm saying IQ is like I feel like she didn't ask for this time limit on this compromise, and I feel like that is evidence of low IQ or something, or like not being able to like see the whole picture, because there's no way Jill is presenting this compromise and saying, yeah, I'll be happy with this even in 20 years. Like, based on the information we have, where she's calling him too much, constantly wanting to spend time together, I don't see 1 day a week satisfying her enough for the rest of her life. So I think that she's not seeing the bigger picture, and she's thinking right now she'll be happy if we do that. but I think she needs to also like make him understand that this compromise cannot be like a forever arrangement, and that he has to either get a better job or be okay with making less money. As long as Jill's okay with him making less money, because she has to be if she wants the time, right? Like,
All right. Thanks. Next. All right, that's all the questions I have now. We can just like talk about it freely. So the reason that I brought this up is I watched a video, like a psychology video, and they were talking about how the number one indicator of a failing relationship is if one party is stubborn and unwilling to compromise. Like statistically, that's the biggest downfall of a relationship. But
Right.
when I heard this Jack and Jill scenario, which was I think a little bit different in the video, I was really like put off by the idea that Jill, because I feel like I identify more with Jill, and I feel like Jill, like if Jack compromises, and this is what I told Jay, because Jay's the only other person I talked to about this, if Jack has to compromise, won't he be like hating the time he spends with her because he's already not making that effort to see her more, so he doesn't care to see her more? So it just kind of feels sad for Jill because she's forcing him to spend time with her, and it just feels like this relationship, instead of compromising, would be better off just finding someone for Jill who's more clingy and someone for Jack who's more like independent or something.
Oh, I think it's important to know like what each person wants in the end, like what the end result is. If Jack wants to be with her, like that's their end goal, and I think it's not that big of a deal for him to set aside a day to hang out with her. But at the same time, Jill can't be like too clingy, because if being with him is the end result that she wants, she needs to kind of change her behavior so that it goes towards that direction.
But how do you know like how far is too much of a compromise on like your needs? You know, like if Jill never
Well, to a
feels
point
fulfilled.
where you don't want to be with that person anymore. Like if I had to do this, I don't want to be with this person anymore. That's the cutoff line. So if Jack was like, okay, if I have to give up one day of the week to be forced to, go on a date night, that's not worth it, then it's over.
Okay, and you think Jack like has fun on this date night, or do you think it's like kind of just sad for Jill, like Jill's like forcing him to be with her and stuff?
I think it, you know, just never, maybe he's not good at time management. And then this kind of forces him to kind of like focus on her on that one day. And it could fulfill him in a way that he never thought about.
Okay, so you don't
It's
think
like it's like forceful in a way, but like he wouldn't feel forced.
okay. So you think like it's possible for someone to be that into their work or their future or whatever and still like love
I
and
think
want to have
so,
a
because
person?
sometimes I get into a situation where I feel like I really need to step up my game at work.
Yeah.
Obviously, that could hurt what's going on back at home, even though I don't want that.
Okay. Yeah, I figured this is why I wanted to do this because, you know, I come at relationships like, let's try not to compromise at all if possible because
Mhm.
I just want, like, I want to be free and I want the other person to be free. And I feel like something so, like, you're not really compatible if one person's super clingy and the other person is super, like, anti clingy. It just seems like they would be better off just finding someone who fits them better. But it's hard for me to think about, like, all of the other things that might make that relationship really good, you
Mhm.
know, from this scenario. So when the girl in the video was talking about like this is a good compromise, I'm like, this sounds like a horrible compromise. Am I the one that's like dooming all of my relationships to fail because I don't think you should compromise on something this big? So I knew like my friends would have different opinions and shit.
Well, I think it could be more stressful to not have this, forceful date night and just keep doing what they were doing and keep fighting and keeping the drama. I think that could be more stressful, and then, setting aside one day, you know?
Yeah.
I
Do
feel
you
like
think
that's still a solution rather than like, I don't know, this forceful compromise.
so you think both like personality types are viable, like is someone who's clingier and someone who is more distant?
Well, I think because I'm more of the Jack type of person, so I think as if I was clingy, if I were to make that compromise, it'd be hard for that person to keep that promise. I think if they're clingy,
What do you mean? Like
like
keep the promise not to call or
yeah, it'd be very hard for that person to not do it, and it would be stressful.
Okay.
So on paper, the compromise is good, but I don't think it's feasible.
I guess. I mean, if she actually feels more fulfilled just by like 1 day a week where he's not playing with his phone and stuff, then maybe she'll be less, lonely and stressed out when he's out of town. Maybe. But it all depends.
Well,
I would probably be
that's
clingier.
what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
If Jack sets 1 day of the week to hang out with her, but she's still clingy, and that's at a point where you're like, okay, this is too much.
Okay. Jay said that if like this relationship, like Jack kind of needs to put a time limit on how long he's gonna grind that hard.
Mhm.
So that like maybe like in 10 years they can settle down and have a family, and then he'll have more time for her because he's like in a CEO position or something.
Yeah.
But like I feel like that seems like I wouldn't want to waste a couple of years being promised by a workaholic that they're gonna work less later, but then they don't, and then I'm like kind of stuck.
Right. So it's kind of up to you, because as the person, as the workaholic, like he doesn't mean to like hurt you, or he doesn't mean to like get away from you. Just feels like in the moment at his work, like he needs to really put in the time.
Yeah, I guess.
And if the other person, if the girl can't understand, and it's over.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the guy putting in the work. He doesn't mean, he doesn't mean it to like not work out.
Yeah. Okay, I think that makes sense. All right, we got this. The reason I'm asking this is because I have like the opposite reaction that you do. I think that like why would someone who, let's say, needs a lot of like physical touch or a lot of attention, why would they be with someone like Jack who's obviously going to throw himself into his work? I'm not necessarily saying that Jack's a bad person, just that this compromise seems stupid because it seems like they're trying to fix something that's fundamentally different about them to the point where the relationship just doesn't fucking work, Like, is there a scenario where a girl should be forced to only see her husband once a week when obviously she wants him every night?
Right.
And, Jack is obviously very career-driven, but...
Yeah, but if she knew that going into the relationship, then it shouldn't be like...
Yeah.
Whoa, man, you gotta slow down,
Yeah. So you're saying, do you think that, like, you would be able to, let's say, the biggest thing in your relationship that you would want, like, the number one thing you would want from a partner, would you be willing to, like, compromise that down to 1/7 of the amount that you would want? Because that's kind of what Jill seems to be doing.
I guess, yeah. If I really, really, like, love the person, then yeah.
Okay, so you would love them based on, like, in your head, if you imagined it, you would love them based on, like, something that you can't get anywhere else, you think? Or would it just be like, I've spent so much time with this person? Like...
Yeah, you just, like, grow a bond and,
Okay. There was something else I was going to ask. What was it? Something about... Oh, yeah. One of the things that turned me off to the scenario was that I imagined someone like Jack would go to the date night and not enjoy it, and then that's kind of sad for Jill.
Because he's focused on work so much?
Yeah. Like, it would be hard for him to turn that off, and it would also be hard for him to care, to have that intimacy, right, if he doesn't normally care. Like, do you think... Does it seem sad for Jill, or...?
Yeah, it's sad for her, but, like... In this scenario, has Jack always been, like, work, work, work?
I think so.
So then she should have known.
So you think
It's
it
on
might be
Jill.
like a... Yeah, like a time-lost fallacy where you're just, like, keeping it up because...
Definitely.
Okay, so you're more of a Jack?
Maybe.
Ooh, I thought most of the girls I talked to were going to be Jills, and most of the guys I talked to were going to be Jacks.
Oh.
Yeah, this was interesting.
I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yay. Plug your shit. Nobody else I talked to actually has shit to plug, so plug your shit.
Do I have shit?
Do you have shit?
I don't think I have shit.
She doesn't have any shit?
Mm-mm.
Follow her on Pornhub.
You sound so tired.
I'm
Oh my
tired.
god, we're both tired.
Pornhub.com/Makayla is anus. All right, thank you, girl.
You're welcome.
Woo! Okay, so when everyone else but you has said, like, they're on Jack's side, that's really fucking weird to me. I don't know. Like when I first heard that, it was like in a psychology video where they're saying like this is an example of a good compromise. And I'm like, Jack will literally go to this one night a week dinner and like hate it. Like this is so sad for Jill. Like what
Yeah,
the
it
fuck?
sounds bad. I don't know.
Yeah, like doesn't it sound like they're fundamentally like not meant for each other or something? Like totally different people to the point where like they're not even like fulfilling each other's needs at all.
Well, like what you told me about Jack, it doesn't even sound like he cares about her. I don't know.
Yeah, but everyone else is saying shit like, well, you know, maybe it's just for a little while, or like he's trying to do this so he can support her later on, etc. But it just seems like, I don't know, you can be really into your work, but if you really want to spend time with someone, you spend time with them, right? Like,
Yeah, once a week
I
is
don't know.
like nothing to me. I don't know.
Okay, so maybe you're just like too free right now to get it or something. I don't know.
I work like 30 hours a week. I mean, almost full time. And like, yeah, I mean, for me, once a week seems super easy. So I don't know.
So, do you think that like if you picture this dinner with Jack and Jill or whatever, do you think that Jack is like hating it?
Yeah, he's annoyed.
He's annoyed. Okay. Yeah, like I don't know. It just seems bad. Okay, you're the only person that agrees with me. Makayla's like hard on Jack. Like what the fuck? And Jay's like making excuses for Jack. And Red is like, I'm a Jack, but I understand where Jill's coming from. Like what in the world?
That's
The
crazy.
fuck?
Dude,
It's
Red
crazy.
spends time playing Overwatch with me. What the hell?
Damn, he must love you more than his girlfriend. Shit.
That's crazy, bro.
Have you ever been like so busy that you didn't make time for like your friends and shit? Like at all? Like you like them, but you just, I mean, I guess I do that, don't I?
Mm.
But not like boyfriend. I don't do that to Jay. I just
I don't
like,
know. When you lived in Seattle, I wouldn't say so.
yeah, I
I'd say
guess.
you like devote at least a day of the week to effing him.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. Was that for my friends or was that for me? Like, I don't know. Maybe I can be a Jack sometimes.
I mean the most I've ever had like no free time. That sounded like opposite as fuck. But I was working UPS during Christmas while doing school. And I had like I don't know, like 2-3 hours a day other than like on the weekend to like just like do whatever I wanted. And I'd still had like free time. Like on the weekends, I still felt like I had time to do whatever I wanted. So
Yeah,
I
and
don't know.
you would spend that sometimes with friends, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, we were playing like Path to Exile and shit, so.
yeah. Did you say Path to Exile?
Path of.
Oh my god, what a fake gamer boy.
Oh, I just love fucking Candy Crush, dude. Farmville. Fuck yeah.
Okay, you made it through and you only laughed like 3 times, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wow, I'm so serious now.
Wow, you're like a real test subject. So scientific.
Am I the only one on cam?
No, Jay's on cam, Makayla's on cam, just Red's not.
Oh, okay.
The reason I'm asking everyone this is because, can you guys scoot forward? I feel like I'm breaking my neck to look at you. God. Okay. What? Why are you so shy? Oh my god. Okay, so the reason that I was watching like a psychology video, and this was one of the like compromises that was a good compromise. And to me, like initially I was just like, oh, I feel so bad for Jill. I don't know. It's crazy that she feels opposite. But a lot of people that I talk to feel opposite. It just felt like, you know, I think compromise is a good thing, but I also think that finding the right person with the core values that are similar to yours is important too.
Absolutely.
And I feel like he's career oriented and hands off, and she's clingy or needs a lot of, you know, attention. And I think that's like a fundamental thing, that if he's actually not willing to do that,
Yeah.
or doesn't want to do that, then he'll always not want to do that.
But then you got to think about, is she going to be okay if he's working less, if he's making less, if he's bringing home less? Is
Yeah.
she going to be okay if he sacrifices the effort he puts in at work to give more effort to her? And what's she going to give him in exchange? Oh, you're not going to complain? Thanks.
Yeah. Like, I definitely think there's merit in being the way Jack is, where he's obviously trying to grind so that he can support his family or
Right.
whatever. But for me, when I hear relationships like that, I think like workaholic borderline, that becomes more about just filling your time than actually, you know, breadwinning and doing, because you can always make time for someone if someone's a priority.
Absolutely. And I think, with this scenario, of course, it's a little harder to discuss because you want to know
More
the rest of it. Was he always a workaholic? Did she date a workaholic? Did this just something happen that he lost interest and then
Is
turned
he
into?
finding intimacy at work, which is why he's finding it so much easier to be at work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not need that.
But I also agree with Lisa
Uh-huh.
when she made a comment about, this is who he is and this is who she is, and they're not compatible. It just kind of ends like that.
Yeah, I've never been one to compromise that. I feel like that's a big compromise where like neither of them are gonna be happy in the end. I kind of live where I want to like coexist with someone as much as possible and compromise as little as possible.
Compliment them.
Yeah, so like I want them to be able to do whatever makes them happy, and then I can do whatever makes me happy, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can understand each other so that compromise isn't always necessary. Because if Jill understood that he's trying to breadwin for a future family, maybe she wouldn't feel so insecure about not having the time with him. And if he understood that that's like just one of her love languages or something, then maybe he would be like, oh yeah, of course, that's like the most important thing. I'm going to make more time for that.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be like a hard compromise.
Yeah.
It would be like an understanding.
I like a compromise with consideration. You have to be considerate of other people's time and know that sometimes, you have to take a back seat and let them drive.
Yeah, that's true too. So, one thing I felt when I heard this scenario is I thought that like, in my head, I'm imagining this one date night a week, and I'm thinking like, is Jack hating that time? Because he wasn't making that time in the first place. So, is this something he's just doing so he doesn't have the drama of like losing his girlfriend, or like, how do you know that he's actually
Or is
there?
he just now aware, like, oh damn, I really was home, not home 7 days a week. I really was doing this, and it maybe might make him aware of the fact that he's fallen down on some of the relationship aspects.
Okay, so you think it's possible that it was just like an honest?
Yeah, maybe he just didn't notice. You get focused on work, right?
Absolutely.
You could be up for
Just kind of get carried
hours
away.
and hours
Yeah.
and hours just working.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. You're cute. She's so cute. She's like, okay.
It was those pretty blues. I got lost. Look at the camera.
One thing that I thought was interesting is you were on the side of Jack and you were on the side of Jill, but you identified more with Jack and you identified more with Jill. That was weird.
Because we woke.
We woke. It's like you can be on someone's side but identify with the opposite person. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
because you have to see it from the three angles it is. It's her side, his side, and then, what's the compromise in the middle, and of course I could say that I've been guilty from working too much and getting caught up in work and focused on my career, and then I've also played the clingy role. I've also done that and said, played those roles, and then it's, I don't know.
So when you play both of those roles, were you less committed to the person in either of them? Or can you actually get lost in work and then not make someone a priority that you really do like love or care about?
I think the clinginess was probably more lack of love for the person.
Oh, really?
Like, it was more of like grabbing on because I'm supposed to love you. Oh my God, I'm supposed to love you. Like, just be with me then. Maybe that will bring it back. Maybe that will make me love you.
Okay.
And
so,
then now, or the side of being a workaholic, like, I'm working because I love myself, so it's easier to love others.
that's interesting.
I think that when I've been that workaholic role, it's because I was finding everything I needed with my work. I didn't need anything else. I didn't go home at night and like care if I was having a conversation with another person. I was already fulfilled just on my own. I don't think I've ever done the clingy role though.
Oh, you strong, independent.
I don't think I'm strong and independent. I think that that part just doesn't matter as much to me. I never had that, fear of dying alone. I don't care.
I don't want to die alone.
You don't want to die alone.
So you'll compromise.
I will cling, I will compromise, no.
Oh my God.
And I will work my ass off. Call me.
Oh my- You're such a dork.
Just saying.
Oh, I think we got it. I look so dumb in this mask. Oh
You
my
look
God.
kind of
I
cool.
was staring at it like, is it keeping anything in? No?
Out.
But you can breathe, huh?
Oh, it's so nice. No one said anything either.
It looks really...
No, I like that you could see your mouth.
Yeah,
you
but it
know?
also like pushes down my nose, so it looks like I have a fat nose or something.
I wonder
Does it? Oh.
if that'll be permanent if we wear these too long.
Yeah, I was wearing the N95 mask and it was actually giving me like lines here.
Indents?
Yeah, that wouldn't go away for like 2
Wow.
days, so I stopped doing it. I'm like,
Ooh,
oh,
wear
it's
that
not
in the
good.
sun one day and come back with that suntan.
Yeah, have you seen how people get like rashes and like tan differences? It's crazy. I don't know.
That's concerning.
I'm over it.
Let's compromise, world. Let's take these off. No, I'm just let's compromise.
I didn't put makeup
You
on.
keep
down here.
Really? You don't?
I only put makeup from here up.
Oh my god. What about you? You
Yeah.
have makeup on.
Ooh, I do.
I really hate when I put lip gloss on and then put a mask on and then the whole mask is like a face on the inside. And then I always have cat hair on the inside of my mask, so I want to be like playing with it more. It's like, oh my god.
Could be human hair. That's gross. That's gross.
Somebody else's
yeah,
human
somebody
hair.
else's human hair.
Ew.
Thanks, you guys.
No, thank
you.
you.
Woo. So the reason that I did this is because I was watching a psychology video. Stop looking at yourself.
The lighting, I'm not used to looking this good.
You're not used to looking this good. I'm used to looking better.
Still hot.
Be serious. I'm sorry I snapped you. That was really awful. I gave you the waiter service like, hey.
All right, so what do I have to do to get you to not snap at me? Let's talk compromise real quick.
Slap me when I do it.
Deal.
Yeah, okay. So, listen, pay attention.
All ears. Eyes. Snaps.
So the reason that I wanted to do this was because I was watching a psychology video where they were talking about compromise. I'm not big on compromise because I personally feel that any issues can either be talked through so that you understand why each other wants that certain thing, you know? Like a lot of reasons why people want compromise is because they're like, I don't understand why you need to have so many guy nights out with your buddies or whatever, something. And then if he just explains why and she wants to understand him better, then it won't be like a point of contention with her because she'll be like, okay, this is the way that you relieve stress, so why would I hate it? I want you to be happy, right? So I would rather coexist with people as much as possible and not be holding each other back like a ball and chain type of thing. So this scenario, almost verbatim, was one of the situations that they gave as a good compromise. And I was like, my heart was broken for Jill. This is horrible. Like, how is this a good compromise? Like, she just wants to talk to her boyfriend, and he's just like, yeah, I don't care about you at all. And then I imagine, like, this one date night a week is, like, something that he hates, you know? It's like, why are they even together?
Fuck no. I look forward to the one date nights a week. When you reduce it, you make it sparingly, it makes you look forward to it more.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing the date nights. Like, he wasn't doing it of his own volition.
You feel compelled to do it because of the compromise.
Okay, but feeling compelled to do something is, like, not a good reason to do something.
No, agreed. So I'm saying that's, if you feel compelled to do it, then it's a shitty compromise.
Yeah, so, I don't know, how is she supposed to go about it? Like, we never see each other. Like, I'm gonna start cheating on you. Like,
That's just doomed. That's what I said. I think it was my first answer.
Okay, so you think it's doomed if someone is career-oriented and another person is needy?
No, not necessarily. I think it's just doomed if the compromise leads to feeling like the reason the compromise works is because both sides feel like they've given up something for the greater good, right? Like, this kind of bothers me, or maybe it doesn't even bother you, but like you feel better about it now because you have a better understanding of it, perhaps. Whereas the compromise is not going to work if you're just fucking doing it because you like the trade-off and you're still going to sulk and feel bad about what you just gave up, and perhaps it feels like a zero-sum game. That makes
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, kind of, as much as it can right now. So, since you're like the most jack person I've talked to,
Wrong.
you are the most jack person I've talked to, definitely. You don't even know who I've talked to. So you can't, it could have been a bunch of fucking Jill-ass pussies, like, you don't know. So, I guess you're even like a bad person to even ask, because you don't really do relationships in the first place. But like, what makes you want to have a relationship if you care about that last? Like what's the point? Have you ever like been with a person that's actually like the same as you, where like you don't really care about each other, but you're like together? Like,
Two of the same people as me does not work in a relationship.
yeah, you would just stop talking.
And you,
like,
and you know me, that is a dumpster fire ready to fucking happen.
oh my god, I don't get it.
But no, I don't know. It works and both are busy, and you kind of just have your time devoted for the weekends, which is usually how I am. Like you work, you know, like a normal day job shift on a Monday through Friday, maybe weekends.
Yeah, but then on weekends, you're like, I don't even want to spend this date night with you, bitch.
I party too much.
Yeah, you're like work. Okay, so you don't work as much as this Jack person, but then you put like fucking fill it in with the partying.
A little bit. Because you're blowing off steam for the weekends. I'm not saying it's the right thing.
Do you think people that are that opposite can actually work out?
Opposite in which ways? Like,
Like
Jack and Jill?
Just like the needs of the relationship. Not necessarily. They could have all the same interests or whatever, but like if one wants a lot of intimacy and the other one is like, I like my alone bullshit.
Oh no, in my experience is the one who wants the intimacy is the one who eventually throws in the towel and says, I can't fucking do this. And then the one who wants the bullshit goes, what did I do fucking wrong this whole time?
I thought you're the one that always breaks up with everyone.
Well, I can't deal with the constant squabbles in my ear when I don't hang out with them enough. I feel like a list of like 3 girlfriends you can hit up in the past. I'll probably all say the same thing.
Why don't you make time for people that you like?
I do.
Why don't you like your girlfriends?
I feel like, look, it starts off that way and then, you know, I don't know. Tapers off.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you think that at the point where you stop caring to have at least that date night a week is the point where you've kind of like checked out?
In my past, there's always been at least one date night a week. Like,
Okay.
always at least one. I don't know, I think it just depends. I think that just instead of breaking it off, probably when I should have, like, you know, when you see it taper off from 4 nights a week to 3 nights a week to eventually 1 night a week, that might be like the red alert sign to, yo, that shit's fucking doomed.
Yo, that shit's doomed.
But sometimes not that smart, and I guess neither are they either to pick up on the signals and make that read, or maybe no one wants to accept that read of, oh shit, this is doomed. We hang out once in a week.
I mean, it's easy to keep up a relationship if you only hang out once a week.
It's easy to keep one up.
Yeah, I could have like 7 boyfriends if that's all I had to do.
Maybe you do.
Maybe I do. Who knows? Yeah.
Fuck you.
It's interesting though because you aren't like, you're not sticking up for Jack. You're saying like it sucks to be Jill.
Yeah, because that's been like my experience with like every fucking girlfriend I've had in the past where they fall into that trap, and I do usually end up breaking up with them, and you feel bad because you're like, oh my god, she like hung on and fought so hard, and then they get wrecked.
They get wrecked.
They do. It's shitty, and then you feel bad, and you go. Sometimes like you do the breaking up for them because you realize how completely unfair it is, and you're like, you need to dump me, but you will not dump me. So it's like the like quintessential, it's not you, it's me, but I have to do it for you because you are not strong enough to do it yourself.
Wow, you're such a fucking saint.
What can I say? I'm just saving the day. Probably the douchiest thing I've ever said also. I just have to dump these girls for them because they won't do it themselves. What a fucking tool. Sorry.
He's the worst. Give me that. I need this.
It's not fair.
Okay, thank you, Hunter, for the stuff.
Thanks, guys. This marks the start and my finish of ever being on any sort of online media.
Oh my god. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you did. I don't expect this video to do very well. I don't even expect the last one to do very well. But usually part 2s and follow-ups and things where you have to watch something else before the next thing, which is this, usually doesn't do too well. But for all of you who actually watched through all of this, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your input. And if you have any other scenarios or topics to submit, I would love to do this again with maybe different people, maybe streamers, some e-girls, or just my friends again. I hope you guys liked this. This was something I was really passionate about trying because it seemed like a really cool way to get other people involved in my channel, and I know you guys always want me to collab with people. Well, this is a set of people who are really important to me right now. Maybe next time we'll do a set of famous people and make them actually speak more deeply than usual on their platforms. Have a wonderful night. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.